Welcome back, csc200, to part 2 of our, I guess this is more president's queries. I'm not sure what I'll call this, but this should be our exercise 2 that we're working on. And we're going to dig into our queries now. We'll start with years in office. And again, I'm using a file here that I have open, and I have 2 tabs open in Python Anywhere. This is just in my files. So I have a little coding environment where I can work on my code and paste it into my console area, and that's what I'm going to do. And the first thing I'm going to do, since I have this set up, we started talking about years in office. We updated the Obama one so it had 8.0, and then we altered the table, so we changed the column name from president to last name, so it's a little more consistent and makes sense when we do it. We have to make sure now that we use last name when we're talking about the last name instead of president, so that's fine. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to do a couple quick queries where we're just going to find out how many years presidents were in office. Now, some of these we've done in the Intro to Computing class, so some of this will be a little bit of review, but we'll get into it a little bit deeper. And I'm going to use this one here. I'll just copy and paste this. And the first one I want to do, and I could even do 2 in a row here, but the first one I want to do, I do want the column ID, last name, first name, and I do want years in office, and I do want presidents. But what I'm going to use now is a where clause. So right after presidents, and you could just hit return here and say where. You could do that so it looks nice and neat. And I'm going to say where years in office, so that's the column. And you can see I'm having problems typing it. It'd be easier to just copy this and then paste this. So where years in office, and I want to see years in office where everybody made 2 terms or more. So I'm going to do greater than or equal 8. So I'm just putting a where here, and I have my operator that's greater than or equal to. So this should return these columns from the president's table where the years in office is greater than 8. Now, I'm not sure how it'll order it right now, but we could check it out. So I'll copy this, and I'll paste it back here. And when you paste 2 lines in here, it'll put that little arrow, which is fine, and I'll just hit return. And there they are, and I can see that everything in here is 8.0 or higher. Franklin Roosevelt served 3 terms, and it's showing me that there's 15 presidents that did that. Now, I'm not sure if we have duplicates in here. It's not showing Grover Cleveland. He served 2 terms, unless it's treating him like, it might be treating him like a separate person, like 2 separate people, because they were 2 separate terms. So they might just be looking at one person. Actually, let me check. We could go up here, and years in office, Grover Cleveland. I guess they're only doing 4.0 because he served non-consecutive terms, so they're not putting him together. So even though he served 2 terms, they weren't consecutive. So these are consecutive. To go back here, now these aren't in order. If you wanted to order them, you could just go at the end here and say order by, and you would just order by years in office, and I'll just copy it so I don't mess it up again. And I'll just say order by years in office, and I'll still finish it off with a semicolon. So this one, it should put the 12 up top. And I could also order it by president. Now it's ordering it right now, it's ordering by number. Now I'll order it by, and it's doing ascending. So remember, if I wanted it to be descending, I want to go from the higher number first. I'd have to put descending there. It'll do ascending by default. So I'll do it one more time, and I'll go down here. And there it is, descending, going from 12 down to 8, and all the other ones that have 8. So the only glitch we have here is that it doesn't have Grover Cleveland, since he did not serve consecutive, so it doesn't list a 8.0, it just lists 4.0 on separate administrations. Now, as long as we're looking at years in office that are greater, let's see the people who didn't make that long. So I'm going to use this again, and I'll just copy this because we're going to use a lot of the same code. We could use this one again. We have ID, last name, first name, years in office. And the only thing we're going to change here, we're going to say less than 4. And we'll see who didn't make it 4 years, at least in their particular term. And I'll just put ascending, ASC. The one has 4 letters, this has 3 letters, so we'll use ascending here. And I'll use this one and see who didn't make 4 years. And I'll just paste it again. And these are the people who didn't make it 4 years. James Garfield only made it a half of a year, so a couple didn't even make it a full year. And I know there were people who were in duels, people got sick. Gerald Ford took over for Nixon, and then he wasn't reelected. So that was the where clause. And that was in finding years in office. So what we're going to do next is focus on party a little bit. So I'll copy one of these again, And this time I'm going to do party. I guess I can still keep ID, last name, first name, except years in office I'm going to change to party because I want to see the party from presidents, and it's going to be where party. The first one I'll use is where party equals Democrats. And instead of for, I'm going to use Democrat. Now, you have to make sure that you're using the name exactly as it is, and you are putting in quotes. If it's a name like that, it should be in quotes if it's a value. So I'm just going to go look at my original table, which I could scroll up, and we're talking about party, and it is called party like that with a capital P, and Democrat is spelled like that with a capital D. So I just want to check that. So I have that correct. I guess I don't really have to order by anything. It'll order by the original order, so I'm not going to put anything in here. I'm going to take out the order by, because I'm not concerned about order by right now, and I could still leave it on 2 lines like that. That's fine. So I'm going to select the ID, last name, first name, party from presidents where party equals Democrats. So I'm just going to do, this will kind of filter it. This will basically be a filter is what's going to happen here. It's like a filter by selection in Access. This will just be a filter by selection. So I'm going to go in here and I'll paste that. And there's my filter by selection. Last name, first name, and they're all in the party. So Grover Cleveland, there he is. He didn't change parties or anything like that. And it's saying 15 rows down here. Now eventually we're going to work with a function that can actually do a count, and not just of everything, but can also do a count of groups and things like that, which we'll do in a little bit. And remember, you can change these up here. So if you want to have these names be different, although right now they're fine, other than putting like number or something like that. So that's our first one. So we have 15 Democrats out of 44. And if we want to check Republicans, we could do that. We could just copy this and do the Republican. And we just have to make sure we spell it right and make sure they say Republican, which I think they do. So I'm not even going to double check it, but that's all we want there. And we could just do the same thing. So we'll just run this again. Again, just exercising a little bit here with our queries. And there's our Republicans, and there's 18. So that doesn't add up to 44. That means there's presidents who weren't Democrat or Republican. Now we could find them pretty easy. What we're going to do is do a where, except we're going to do one that actually doesn't have either. So I'm going to copy this again, and what I'll do down here, instead of where party equals Republican, I'm going to say not equals Republican. And I'm going to use the and function because it's going to be both. They can't be Republican and they can't be Democrat, not or, because if I said or, it means if it's just not Republican. But we have to say if it's not either this and it's not either that. So that's what we kind of have to use here. So we're going to use the and, which means both, which means it won't be equal to both. And you would also say party again. You won't just say not equals to Democrat. You have to say, because where is the clause, and this is actually the condition, where party is not equal to Republican, and then you have to put the condition again. You have to say where party is not equal to, I'll just copy this right here, where party is not equal to Democrat. And I'll just copy Democrat here because I always mess up my typing. So I'll make sure I don't mess that up. So I'm using an and logical operator like and or, and I'm going to try this out and see if it gives me everybody who's not Democrat or Republican. And there it is. We have a none. George Washington was not part of any party. And then after that, there was the Federalist Party, which were more about the federal government and not necessarily the states. There's a little rift in the beginning there. And then there was the Democratic Republican, which had both names in there. There was the Whig Party and National Union. So it looks like after 17, then we went into the Democratic and Republican parties. So there was 11 before we actually had the Democrat and Republican Party. And we could still have an independent or something like that, but there's no independents that are listed here. All right, the last one I just wanted to show with party, not that we have to do a whole lot here, but let's say you wanted to show both Democrat and we used and that are not. Let's see if we could do this where we have both together, if we can have Republican and Democrat. Now, we wouldn't want to put both because they're not going to be both, so we're going to use an or statement. We're going to use or for that. So whether they're Republican or Democrat, we're going to use both of them. So we're going to say it equals. We're going to find all the ones that are either Republican or Democrat because none of them can be both. So they are going to be or. So that's why we're using or there, because it'll find one or the other. And I'll try this one, and this should give us a group of all the Democrats and Republicans, which should be, 33, whatever it came out with the first time. There was like 18 and 15, something like that. So I'll paste this in, and I get 33. That's what I said. Here's all the Democrats and Republicans. Now, it's not putting them order by the party, so it's all kind of mixed up here. It's still doing it by ID. So we're going to order these, and we can order by party, because that's what we're That's what we're working in, and we can say ascending, which would put Democrats first because it would go in alphabetical order. So I'm going to say order by party, ascending, and that should put the Democrats first, then the Republicans. And it's a shorter word, so that'll probably look better anyway. So let's try that. And I'll go down here, and I'll paste it. And that looks nicer because now we see all the Democrats and all the Republicans. They're still in order by the way they originally were. No, they're not. I'm not sure what comes next. We can look at all the other orders, but it's ordering this way first, and then I think it's ordering by, I'm not sure what it's using after that. It's showing Van Buren down here, and he's 8. We'll deal with that later. I'll look at that a little bit more and see what's being ordered there. I just didn't think about it until I looked at it now. All right, so that's our party stuff. Now we're going to be working with colleges next, and we're going to be doing something called a count function. When we do that, we're going to be using group by. So I think I'll take another break here. When I come back for part 3, we'll work with colleges a little bit.